everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to cut curly hair. So my client has type 3 hair today, so I've pre-shampooed everything ready for me to cut. So we're going to be cutting off just over 1 inch. So this, just to get all the dry ends off, refresh everything. What that will do is make the curl jump up a little bit. So things you've got to be aware of is, use the wide side of your comb. You don't want too much tension, otherwise if you take too much off, your curl is going to spring up. Okay, so really light tension, enough so you don't have a root drag, but really light tension on your comb so everything doesn't spring up and appear shorter. Okay, so I'm just combing it back, straight back, and then pushing it forwards and then letting the parting fall naturally. Is that right? Yeah. Right. So we're just going to comb everything out from there, and then we're just going to section the front, so right to the back of the ears, section that off. Okay, so I've got nice clean sections both sides. Now what I'm going to do is make sure my client's position is right, so chin right down. Okay, so first section is I'm going to put my comb in, my clip in here, meet in the middle, and then just clip that up out my way. Okay, so that's my first section. So that's about 1 inch thick. Okay, so I'm combing from the roots using the wide part of my comb. Now this section's always going to be a little bit shorter at the nape. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go for about this off the first section. So remember, quite light tension, don't throw pulling anything too hard. Okay, I'm just going to cross check. Putting those 2 edges into the middle, and then what I tend to do is on each section of curly hair is just play around with it a little bit, so just encourage the curl, and you can check the length then. Okay, that's looking good. So taking your next section, everything down again. Okay, so this section I'm going to follow my guide, but once I find my guide I'm just going to cut a little bit longer. So this will just control the hair. So because it's quite thick hair, if you were to cut everything at exactly the same length as your first guide, it will be quite wide. So what I'm doing is cutting it a little bit different each time to allow the movement. Again, just play around with it. And remember, if you can't see your guide from your previous section, you need to go in and take smaller sections. Don't go guessing where your guide is. Always remember to keep your posture and your position correct as well, so just make sure your elbows are tucked in and you're keeping it within your square. Otherwise you end up going up on one side and then one side will be shorter than the other. Okay, so you can see how much more that jumps up when I encourage the curl. So I brush it out, and then when you scrunch everything up, it jumps up quite a bit more, so that's why you need to apply loose tension and just be a little bit more cautious whilst cutting curly hair. curly hair as well, you need to do a thorough consultation with your client to obviously make sure and find out if they actually wear their hair curly or not. Depending if they do, I would always dry it exactly how they would wear it at home, so I can check and make sure that it's going to be alright when they dry it themselves and you know, have to do it every morning. There's no point in, if they always wear it curly, in drying it poker straight, because they'll never be able to achieve it themselves exactly how you do at home. And then also if they dry it curly and a bit doesn't sit right when they do it themselves, because they always do it slightly different, you need to make sure that your client is happy and that your piece of work is right as well. I tend to find with a lot of people that have curly hair, they know exactly how they like it as well. So they may have had some, you know, in past experience where they've tried something and they know they didn't like it or it didn't work with their hair. So just ask all the right questions in your consultation, open questions, and try and find out as much information as you can about your client's hair before you go cutting it. Just chin up for a minute. Right, that's the back done. So once that would be dry, I would then go in and double check everything. Perhaps take some weight out. Right, I'm going to move on to the sides and I'll show you. Right, so moving on to the sides. Right, so with these masks, just need to make sure that no hair is caught around them. So I just pull the hair up and just comb everything up from here as well. If you need to get your client to take it off, you just unclip that from your ear, please. They can just hold it around their mouth like that, so then it's nothing around the ears. Because if anything gets caught around the masks, you might just end up with like a long bit of hair that looks like you've missed, but it's just got caught underneath the mask and you didn't see it. Okay. So, moving on to the sides then, as you can see my guide from here, so I'm just going to cut it on the shoulder. Just ask your clients to clip their mask. Thank you. So just before I move on to any other section, I'm just going to cross-check while we're here. I'm just going to grab a piece exactly the same on each side of the head and just pull down. I'm going to try not to look at it, because otherwise I might speed my fingers up on either side. Just look down to the floor and just double check that they're the same. Obviously if anything feels slightly different on one side, you need to go back and check where that's coming from. Remember not to lift anything up towards you, because that will create graduation. You need to give everything really flat to your client's shoulder. One thing to remember as well is when you're cutting, it could be curly hair, straight hair, everyone's hair grows out slightly different, so you might always have one side slightly longer than the other. This is just the way that your client's hair grows out, so don't always think about cutting it to what you've agreed to cutting it, because one side you might be cutting off an inch, one side you might only be cutting off half an inch. So don't just think, right, I need to cut an inch off, because then again, one side will be shorter than the other. So just make sure it's really important to follow your guide. Obviously just make sure you visually cross-check the curly hair, just because sometimes you might need to cut a little bit slightly uneven to make it look even. Oh, right, we're looking good. So what I'm going to do now is take a little bit of weight out from the underneath. I'll show you how to do that. So taking weight out, so I'm feeling through Daisy's hair, it feels quite heavy just through this back section here. The actual sides feel quite manageable, so I'm just going to take a bit of weight out just from the underneath, just so when Daisy gets hot and drying is so much easier and brushing a bit, okay? What I'm going to do is just section here. Don't worry about your sections being really neat on this bit. And then I'm just going to play around. And I'm literally just going to pick up a curl, twist it the way that it wants to curl, and just twist it in my fingers like this. It's all tightly curled, and then literally going to go in my scissors, and do not move your finger here, you're only moving your thumb. Just going to gently so that curl, and then I'm just going to brush, and the weight just falls out of it, and you can't see any short bits in the hair, so it just takes it out of that one curl. If you end up taking, if I picked up like this and cut into it like I would like another thinning technique, you'd get really loads of like short bits in the hair, and obviously Daisy doesn't want that in her hair, so she normally wears it curly. So again, picking up a curl, twisting it the way it wants to go. Okay, and then just little cuts like that, and then I've just pulled that weight out, just that one curl. So I would just keep going with that through where it feels heavy. So now it feels heavy here. I'm just picking out a curl again and just twisting it like this. Really gently, okay, and then comb in, and then that's my weight from that curl. So I'm just going to keep going with this all the way through the back, kind of where I think it needs it, but already just feeling through that section feels loads better already. It's just taking out that little bit of weight, but that's made so much difference. So important that you just go with the curl. Everyone's curl is slightly different, so once you start cutting clients' hair and getting to know their hair, you'll know what works and what doesn't. Alright, so to me it just feels heavy here. So I'm just going to do one more section here, and then I'll get my client to feel through themselves and tell me if they think it's light enough. Right, so that feels so much lighter. So what I'm going to do now is just get my client to double check everything for me and just feel if it's light enough. You just put your hands in for me a second.
Yeah, that's good, thank you.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is talk you through some products, show you how to dry curly hair. So I'm going to dry it naturally with a climber zone, so that will just pump out a little bit of heat, not make it too fluffy, frizzy, just dry it quite naturally as if they were to leave it to air dry at home. I don't want to use a hairdryer, smooth it out when they don't wear it like that. I'd rather just do it where they do it naturally, and then they can see exactly how it's going to be for them at home. Cool. Okay, so what I'm going to use is Curl Honey by Swatchcloth. You literally need a little bit of this, depending on the client's thickness of hair. So I'm going to go with just a pea size for a minute. Rub it in your hands, and then you're just going to scrunch everything, okay? Okay. So you're just going to scrunch through like this to start off with. So this is just going to spread the product all through the hair. And then what I'm going to do, because I don't want to be like everybody else, is just get little bits of hair and twist it like this. So this will just encourage the curl and let the curl all set quite nicely together. Just bundle it. Also, just make sure you tell your client while they're under the climb zone, just if they wanted to scrunch their hair like they normally would at home, they can do so. Just to do exactly like your routine. If they scrunch it while it's drying, let them scrunch it. So once you've kind of twisted a few bits that you want to twist, to make it a little bit tighter, you would then just pop them under the climber zone. What I tend to do when they're under the climber zone is just clip the some of the back up. So I would literally just kind of like scoop some hair like this and just clip that up to allow some of the back to dry. Otherwise the climber zone will struggle to get through all of this hair. So just clip that top up. Once that bottom, leave it 5 minutes or so. Once that bottom's dried off a little bit, I would then just unclip and just naturally let everything fall back on top. Okay, so I'll probably leave Daisy to dry under here about 15 minutes. I don't want it to be completely dry because then the climber zone will start making the hair go a little bit fluffy and frizzy. So I'm just going to go with probably about 90% dry, so she'll be a little bit damp in some areas, but a lot of curly clients understand this, and otherwise their hair will go frizzy. So just make sure every bit of tension is kept looser rather than everything being really tight. Just so your client doesn't end up with hair shorter than what you agreed on. And then everything, just find out as much information as you can with your client about their hair, how they naturally wear it, how it behaves. Again, once you know your client a bit more, you'll know their hair, so you know exactly what to do. But for the first time, just be extra cautious whilst cutting curly hair. And then, yeah, go wild. Try it out. Thanks, guys.